Shadow Slave. By Guiltythree. Chapter 79, Twist of Fate. It was already dark when Sunny returned to the great tree. Cassie was asleep, snuggled comfortably under her cloak. There was a peaceful smile on her face. Sweet dreams. She wasn't bothered by her terrible visions in a long time. Everything became better since they decided to stay on the tranquil island. Everything except for Neff's mood. She didn't even bother to return to camp today, staying at the western edge of the barrow. Sunny didn't like that she was so close to the black water. He sighed. I need to get some tasty fruits for her as soon as possible. She definitely would not be able to stay sad after eating the magical fruits. They were so sweet and delicious. Sunny began salivating just from thinking about them. Maybe I'll find one for myself, too. In the beginning, they took turns climbing to the lower branches of the soul tree to gather fruits. Lately, though, Nephi seemed to be distracted by her strange melancholy. As the result, the group relied on him to bring down fruits for everyone. He had already picked the lowest branches clean, choosing the ripest fruits first. Later ones were smaller and not as heavenly, although they still tasted amazing. Since each fruit was big enough to satiate a person for a long time, they rarely ate more than one in a day. The ripest fruits provided Sunny with 1 or 2 shadow fragments, while the smaller ones gave 1 or even none at all. I wonder how many shadow fragments I accumulated. Should be more than 100, right? Maybe even 110. No way. We've been here just for a few days, a week at most. He could just summon the runes and check, but somehow that thought didn't even occur to him. If it did, he would have been horrified. Forgetting all about the shadow fragments, Sunny looked up and scratched the back of his head. Initially, he was planning to climb the tree in the morning and explore higher than he had previously gone, looking for the best, most delicious fruit possible to give to Neff. But after thinking about it, he decided to not wait until the night was over. He could see perfectly in the dark, after all. And this way, he would be able to give Changing Star a delightful present much sooner. Stepping close to the trunk of the miraculous tree, Sunny began climbing. The first stretch was the most difficult since he had nothing to grab except for small cracks and bumps on the smooth, obsidian bark. Reaching the branches required a lot of effort. However, he was already accustomed to it. Moving his hands and feet almost on instinct, Sunny got higher and higher. Soon, he was already pulling himself on top of an enormous, wide branch. These first branches were as wide as roads. He sat down and rested for some time, enjoying the coolness of the night air. Sunny had never climbed the soul tree in the dark before. Without the bright sunbeams falling through the leaves, it looked strangely different. The vibrant magnificence was gone, replaced with eerie stillness. The rustling of scarlet leaves did not seem calming and tranquil anymore. In fact, it made Sunny shudder. It sounded like thousands and thousands of trapped souls, all screaming in agony. What's up with me today? How can I even think of such things? What a fool. Good thing that the great tree can't hear me, otherwise, I'd be so ashamed. Please forgive me, soul tree. Shaking his head, Sunny stood up and continued climbing. He was very disappointed in himself. After all the good things that the tree had given them, he had stupidly doubted its benevolence. Its greatness. Its desire to devour. Always ravenous, always growing. Starving, hungry. Forever. How ungrateful. Why did he even begin to think about? What exactly was he thinking about? Sunny frowned, failing to recall his train of thought. Ugh, whatever. I'm here to find a tasty fruit for Neff, not practice my reasoning. Climbing higher and higher, he soon abandoned the area that they had explored before. The crown of the great tree was vast enough to form a maze of its own. The large branches grew chaotically in all directions, twisting and crossing each other, with thick foliage blocking lines of sight and making any attempt of looking for the fruits difficult and time-consuming. Still, Sunny was determined to continue. He figured that if he went really high, where sunlight was denser, the fruits would be much riper. They had never tried a fruit from the higher branches. If he could find a really amazing one, Nephi's would have to change her mind and abandon her strange thoughts of leaving the island. After all, these fruits were magical. Maybe she'll even smile. Encouraged, Sunny continued climbing. Time slowly passed. After a long while, Sunny finally decided that he had climbed high enough. He wasn't sure how many hours ago he had started the ascent, but judging by the soreness of his muscles and the visibly diminished width of the branches, he was somewhere in the upper part of the tree. Stepping on one of the branches, he slowly walked forward and looked from side to side. Searching for the fruits was not easy. It required good perception and patience. And a great sense of equilibrium, of course. Falling from this height would not be a great experience. In fact, it would be his last. Carefully observing the surroundings, Sunny moved further and further away from the trunk of the great tree. The branches were softly swaying under his feet. A few times, he jumped from one to another, causing a change in the melody of rustling leaves. On the way, he noticed several hanging fruits. They looked ripe and delicious, but none of them was really special. And he wanted to find the most wonderful fruit possible. Finally, Sunny got so far that the branches grew really narrow and thin. Now, they were almost the same size as those of a normal tree, barely able to support his weight. But he still did not find a suitable gift for Nephi's. Sunny helplessly looked around, crestfallen. He really thought that he would be able to. Then, he noticed something strange. Some distance away from him, the branches just above the one he was standing on were twisted downward, as though weighed down by something. However, he couldn't quite see what it was behind the almost impenetrable wall of leaves. In fact, he only noticed the anomaly because it was dark. In the light of day, the bright color of the sole tree's foliage would make the shape of the branches indiscernible. But in Sunny's night vision, all colors were muted, almost turning into various shades of gray. Interesting. Jumping, he grabbed onto a higher branch and pulled himself up. Then, careful not to fall, Sunny approached the leaf barrier and forced his way through. In the process, he had to enhance his strength and agility with the help of the shadow, otherwise, he would either have had to turn back or tumble down to his death. Finally, he freed himself from the last layer of leaves and took a step forward. Then, Sunny froze, his eyes opening wide with wonder. Right in front of him, hidden from the world in the secretive pocket of twisted branches, a giant, elaborate bird nest rested between the scarlet leaves. Chapter 80, Spirit of Exploration. The nest was spherical in shape, with a round hole at the center of it. Usually, such a nest would be made out of grass and twigs, but this one was constructed from the branches of the great tree, each at least as thick as a man's arm. These branches were twisted and interwoven together in a chaotic pattern, creating gapless, onyx-black walls. Sunny had never seen anything like it. Birds were a rare sight in the real world, let alone giant ones. The size of the entrance into the nest was large enough for a small truck to pass through. The nest itself was several times bigger. Wow. For a second, he felt a sense of fear, afraid that the giant bird was somewhere near. But then his fears disappeared. The nest looked abandoned. It was ancient and empty, some of its parts already on the verge of collapse. It was as though thousands of years had passed since anyone had been in this hidden, secretive place. The air was filled with the feeling of lonesomeness and desolation. Makes sense. If I barely managed to pass through the leaves, how would a giant monster do it without leaving a giant hole in the barrier? Sunny hesitated, caution and curiosity wrestling against each other inside his heart. On one hand, exploring ancient nests was not the best of ideas anywhere, let alone inside the dream realm. It posed great risks. On the other hand, it also could lead to a great reward. Plus, wasn't it just too damn interesting? In the end, Sunny decided to climb inside the nest to satiate his curiosity. He had convinced himself that it was safe following an unexpected train of thought. In his warped state of mind, Sunny was convinced that the soul tree was a great and benevolent being, one that protected them from the terrible threats hiding in the outside world. If so, how could anything having to do with the great tree be unsafe? Moving closer to the entrance of the nest, he balanced on the edge of the branch and tried to look inside. However, he wasn't tall enough to see anything except for the inner side of the nest's roof. Since his position was pretty precarious, Sunny decided not to delay the inevitable and jumped, throwing himself up and over the lip of the entrance. A moment later, he landed on a soft surface. The lower part of the nest was covered in a thick cushion of white, silky spider webs. Time had made them brittle and pliable like sand. There was so much spiderweb around that, for a moment, Sunny thought that he had fallen into a giant white cocoon. But no, it was just a nest. And there, in the center of it, was Sunny blinked. At the center of the nest, there was an egg. A giant, ancient egg that was as tall as he was, gray and seemingly lifeless, as though turned to stone by the passage of time. Forgetting to breathe, Sunny looked around, making sure that there was nothing. And no one else around. But no, the giant nest was empty and silent, with not even a stray shadow hiding anywhere in sight. How fascinating. Sunny felt strangely excited. The feeling of discovering something incredible, something that no one except for him had ever seen, filled him with a deep sense of wonder and satisfaction. He had never known that there was such a side to him, one full of an explorer's passion. Let's check this thing out. Walking on the soft silk, Sunny slowly circled the massive egg and studied it. At a first glance, it seemed to be made of stone. The surface of the egg was colored in various shades of gray, which were overlaid over each other like moving clouds. This pattern was strangely beautiful, giving the egg a mysterious aura. But overall, it was just big and smooth. Sunny scratched the back of his head, then stepped closer and put his hand on the surface of the egg. Immediately, he felt a strong sense of astonishment. The egg was warm to the touch. Is it still alive? In the next second, Sunny felt a strange pull affecting his core. It was as though the egg was trying to steal his life force. He jerked his hand away and looked at the egg with dark apprehension. The damn thing was not only alive, but also capable of sucking the life out of anything that touched it. It only failed to eat his soul because of one reason. As far as Sunny knew, he was the only existence in two worlds without an actual soul core. He had the mysterious shadow core instead. That's why his life force had not been affected. Phew. That was close. Looking at the giant egg, Sunny thought about how to get back at it. The nest, without a doubt, once belonged to an extremely powerful nightmare creature. Therefore, its spawn was also a being of considerable strength. However, due to some unknown reason, that being had not been able to hatch and was left behind by its parent, destined to remain trapped within the egg for all eternity. Or at least until some unfortunate fool came close enough to feed it with soul essence and give it enough power to break free. Luckily, I'm not a fool. Wait. Maybe I am. His decisions have been very strange lately. He couldn't quite explain some of them, including this latest one. It was as though his thinking ability had been reduced. Whatever. I'm still smarter than a damn egg. Like a true explorer, he went where no one had gone before and made an incredible discovery. He found an unbelievably mysterious, rare being, one that not a single human had ever heard of. Naturally, he had to kill it. That's what the spirit of exploration was all about, wasn't it? Summoning the midnight shard, Sunny thrust it into the stone surface of the egg, causing a rain of sparks to fall on the spider webs. The sharp blade slid harmlessly across the stone, leaving only a shallow scratch on it. Tough bastard. The egg was sturdy enough to withstand a strike from an awakened weapon. If it was that resilient, Sunny was scared to imagine how powerful the adult monster would be. It was definitely not an average nightmare creature. But then, he was not an average sleeper. His shadow flowed from his hands onto the midnight shard, turning the polished metal of the blade black and lusterless. Immediately, a cold aura radiated from the sword, making it feel sharp enough to cut the world apart. Stepping forward, Sunny raised the shard above his head and sliced down, delivering a crushing blow. Enhanced by the shadow, the dark blade bit into the stone surface of the egg and split it apart. Cracks ran through the giant stone egg as Sunny's sword plunged into it. A flash of sinister crimson light shined through the cracks, then disappeared, leaving behind nothing but darkness. A torrent of viscous, black liquid flowed onto the white spider webs. In the ensuing silence, Sunny heard the spell's bewitching voice, "You have slain a great devil, vile thieving bird spawn. Your shadow grows stronger. You have received a memory." Chapter 81, Weaver's Eye. Sunny blinked. "You have received a memory, drop of ichor. Wait a moment. Wait a moment. A great devil." He gulped. Nightmare creature with 4 soul cores was called a devil, just one class below the dreaded tyrant. From that detail alone, the evil ancient egg had been potentially more powerful than the carapace demon. However, what shocked him the most was its rank, not class. The quality of most things having to do with the nightmare spell followed a similar hierarchy, from dormant to awakened, ascended, transcendent, supreme, sacred and divine. Humans had only ever managed to reach the transcendent rank. These heroes were known as saints, each wielding an unimaginable amount of power and leading humanity in its war against the nightmare creatures. The nightmare creatures, too, were different from each other in a similar fashion, with 7 ranks of power. They were, in order of growing strength, dormant, awakened, fallen, corrupted, great, cursed and unholy. A great devil, therefore, was a nightmare creature with 4 soul cores, each one of the great rank, which were the same in terms of power as a supreme soul core would have been if a human ever managed to pass the 4th nightmare and rise one step above the saints. Sunny had just killed one of the most powerful nightmare creatures to ever fall by a human hand. At least as far as he knew. Victories against the great devils were rare enough to be of historic importance. What a stroke of luck, to find one absolutely defenseless, yet to be fully born and weakened by thousands of years of neglect. Not to mention the fact that he was probably the only human alive to be partially immune to the egg's terrifying life-sucking powers. Wait. How many shadow fragments did I get? Sunny felt stronger. A lot stronger. He was used to receiving 2 fragments for each awakened beast he killed. Thus, it was fair to assume that a fallen beast would give him 4, a corrupted beast would give him 8, and a great beast would give him 16, forgetting the ridiculousness of the notion that a sleeper would ever be able to slay a great beast. However, the vile thieving bird's spawn was not a beast, it was a devil. It had 4 cores, so 64 fragments. Dumbstruck, Sunny summoned the runes. In his excited state, he even disregarded the insistent forgetfulness that prevented him from doing so earlier. Shadow fragments, 1961000. After seeing the number, he was giddy with joy at first. But then, Sunny frowned. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. I had 96 fragments before coming to the Ashen Barrow. I received 64 just now, that makes it 160. Where did the additional 36 fragments come from? From the fruits? No way. We've been eating them for less than a week, 1 fruit a day. To get that much, a whole month would have to pass. But how could so much time pass without him noticing? Yes, his memory was strange lately. But Sunny tried to concentrate on the discrepancy, but it was very hard, for some reason. The more he thought about it, the less clear he became on what exactly he was thinking about. What was I trying to remember? Something about the shadow fragments. Yeah. A few minutes later, he massaged his temples and sighed in frustration. I guess I was trying to calculate how many fragments I got from killing that vile egg. It's 64. What is there to think about? That is great. He would spend more time celebrating the insane amount of shadow fragments he had received, but there was another amazing thing waiting for his attention. A memory. He had actually received a memory from a great devil. A real, actual supreme memory of the 4th tier. That was fantastic. Sunny summoned the runes once more and looked at his memories. Memories, Silver Bell, Puppeteer's Shroud, Midnight Shard, Drop of Ichor. Hurriedly, he concentrated on the new one. Memory, Drop of Ichor. Memory rank, unknown memory type, unknown memory description. The loathsome thieving bird was hated both by the gods and unknown dash. However, it only cared about shiny things. Enamored by Weaver's beautiful eyes, it stole one of them on a dark, starless night. Impatient, the vile creature looked at its bounty while still in flight. However, when it saw the reflection of unknown forever frozen in the depths of Weaver's pupil, it went mad and screamed, dropping the eye on the mortal realm below. All that was left in its greedy beak was 1 drop of pure, golden ichor. Sunny frowned. What the hell was that? He had never heard of a memory with an unknown rank and type. How was this even possible? Did the spell really not know, or was it simply refusing to let him know? Why would it do that? And the description itself? What were these words that it failed to translate? He tried to forego the automatic translation and look at the runes themselves, but they were beyond his ability to translate. In fact, he had never seen runes of this type before. Weirdly, studying them caused him to feel dizzy and nauseated. That is very, very weird. Also, to his shame, Sunny had to admit that he had no idea what the word ichor meant. It simply wasn't in his vocabulary. Maybe if he went to school and got an education like other sleepers, he would know. Sunny hesitated for a minute or two, then cautiously summoned the strange memory. Instantly, golden sparks of light appeared in the air in front of him, coalescing into a spherical drop of radiant, golden liquid. What am I supposed to do with tea? Before he finished his thought, the spell spoke again. Its voice sounded a bit strange. It was almost excited. You have acquired a drop of ichor. Do you wish to consume it? Sunny blinked. Consume. A memory. Things were getting weirder and weirder. He hesitated. What was going to happen if he did consume it? Memories were rewards given by the spell to the awakened. As such, they were usually useful, very rarely useless, and never harmful. At least that was the common knowledge. However, this one was out of the ordinary. And it was the spell he was talking about. The damn thing was nothing if not unpredictable. Usually with catastrophic consequences. The safest approach would be to put the golden liquid back into his soul sea and never touch it again. But it was a memory received from a great devil. Chances were he would never hold another one in his whole life, not even in his dreams. Sunny was simply unwilling to let this opportunity go. Trying to calm his rapidly beating heart, he licked his lips and said, "Yes. I want to consume it." "As you wish." The golden sphere separated into two streams of beautiful, radiant liquid. The streams flowed through the air, approaching Sunny's face. He felt a gentle touch caress his cheeks. Then, the golden liquid reached his eyes and flowed through them, entering his soul through the pupils. Soon, it was gone. Sunny was frozen, not knowing what to expect. A second passed, then another. He raised his trembling hands to his face, finally feeling something. In the next moment, Sunny opened his mouth and let out a terrible, wailing shriek as unimaginable, blinding pain tore through his entire being.